What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Full 90. It is time today for the Week 18 Premier League predictions. I've got a load of shout-outs to give. First of all, we're giving a shout-out to Tom Wells, who left his predictions on the previous week of the Premier League predictions. I want to give a massive shout-out to all of you for the support on the channel. We're getting close already to 7,000 subscribers. If you're excited for this video and you're enjoying the content on the channel, drop me one of these on the video down below, because the last few episodes have all reached 200 likes, which is absolutely insane. We're coming off of a few great wins over on the betting Instagram. TF90 Tips, a winning accumulator on Sunday, and then another winning accumulator on Monday. So if you want to go and check that out, you can use the link in the description. Instagram at TF90 Tips. Obviously, the tips on there are more up to date. They're posted on the day of the match as opposed to predicted like these videos sometimes a few days before, because if we take a look back at our last week's predictions for week 17, it was a pretty rough week compared to previous weeks. There were a lot of upsets. And this week is no easier. It's a very tough week. So if you want a chance to be shouted out in the next episode of the Premier League predictions, then leave your comment down below like Tom Wells did. But before we do get into week 18, let's have a look back at week 17. And football's just exciting right now. We had the European draws for the Champions League and the Europa League. And this is probably the most exciting draw we've had for quite a few years in the Champions League. There's some tasty fixtures going forward into the new year. But anyway, week 17... wasn't the best. Quite a low-scoring, boring Premier League week, all things considered. But let's have a little look back anyway and see how we did. Liverpool-Watford, I predicted a 5-1 win to Liverpool, and had both teams taken their chances, it definitely could have been that, but Watford missed some absolute sitters. Burnley-Newcastle, I predicted a 1-1 draw. It was a 1-0 win to Burnley, so not too far off. Chelsea-Bournemouth, I predicted a 3-1 win to Chelsea, and Bournemouth turned it up and flipped the script, get a 1-0 win themselves. Leicester-Norwich, I predicted a 4-0 win to Leicester, and it was a 1-1 draw, so totally wrong there. Sheffield United-Aston Villa, I predicted Sheffield United would win 2-1. They actually won 2-0 because Jack Grealish missed the penalty, so that would have been a cool, correct score prediction. Southampton-West Ham, again, not particularly a good prediction. I predicted a 2-2 high-scoring draw. It was a 1-0 win to West Ham. Man United, I predicted them to beat Everton 3-2. Of course, they weren't going to beat Everton after beating Tottenham and City back-to-back. It was a 1-1 draw. Wolves-Tottenham, I did correctly predict Tottenham to beat Wolves away from home 2-1, which was just a pretty decent prediction, to be fair. Arsenal-Man City, I predicted Man City to win 3-1. Arsenal couldn't get the one goal, so it was just 3-0 to Man City. Man City at half-time probably just put the feet up, took the feet off the pedal, and still didn't concede. And then Crystal Palace-Brighton, I predicted a 2-1 win to Palace, and it ended 1-1. And actually, on the night of the Palace-Brighton game yesterday, I actually looked up the odds for an accumulator, a bet builder in the game that I wanted to do, and I was too scared to do it, and I wish I did. It was odds of 20-1, and it was Maupay and Zaha to score any time, and more goals to be scored in the second half. So it was 10-1 for Maupay and Zaha to score any time, and then a further 10-1 on top of that for more goals to be in the second half. It was 0-0 half-time, 1-1 full-time. Both of them scored. I was too scared to put the bet on, but I got it exactly right. In fact, I also added that bet builder to a treble of that, Porto to win half-time, Porto to win full-time, and Sporting Lisbon to win. Both of those happened, and that was odds of about 60-1. Again, too scared to put the bet on, apparently. Nevertheless, we move on to week 18. So as I said, if you're excited, please, and you haven't already, drop me a like. We're kicking it off with Everton versus Arsenal. Do I have any reason to believe that Arsenal will win this game at Goodison Park? No, I don't. They were absolutely just a different class to Man City. They were awful. Everton looked pretty decent against Manchester United, fairly comfortable for the most part, and looked like they were going to smash and grab the 3 points, but I suppose they were fortunate that their goal went in. Their goal was quite fortunate, the Lindelof own goal. Yes, De Gea, I think, was slightly impeded by Calvert-Lewin's arm, but I think it should have been given a goal. I think De Gea needs to be stronger than that. I think VAR and decisions are way too heavily weighted in terms of the defenders and the goalkeepers, and I think rightfully so. De Gea should be punished for missing the ball like that. 1-1, neither team deserves to draw, fair enough. Everton-Arsenal, I'm going for a draw. High scoring because Arsenal can't stop conceding goals, and they have to score. They have to score. They can't go back-to-back games without scoring, Arsenal. So I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw. But yeah, I will preface this video by saying this is one of the hardest weeks in the Premier League to predict. So yeah, that's all I'm saying. Aston Villa up next against Southampton. Southampton losing to West Ham and Aston Villa losing to Sheffield United. Aston Villa, I get a few comments from Aston Villa fans saying, why do I never pick Aston Villa to win? And the reason is because they never give me a reason to pick them to win. I've predicted them to lose the last couple of weeks, and they have done. So I don't know what more I can say. However, this week, I'm going to predict Aston Villa to win. I don't think Southampton are in the best of form. They lost to West Ham at home, so then travelling up to Aston Villa should be quite difficult because Villa they're a decent side. I've never said anything negative about Aston Villa in that sense. I just, I've predicted it correctly when they haven't gone and got the result. This time, I'm going to go for a home win. Aston Villa, 2-1 against Southampton. The next game is Bournemouth up against Burnley. Bournemouth, fantastic win against Chelsea, even if it was a bit of a smash and grab. Burnley, on the other hand, they managed to beat Newcastle, which was a great result for them. The classic 1-0 Burnley win, and it seems they've recovered fairly well from their 5-0 drumming against Tottenham. And I'm going to go for a Burnley win. I can't see Bournemouth picking up any points. They've got a massive amount of injuries and they're just not in great form. I do think they'll score the one goal, but I think Burnley it's going to be one of Burnley's highest scoring games that they've got a few times throughout the season. I'm going to go for a 3-1 away win to Burnley. The next game is Brighton up against Sheffield United. Now, Brighton, they look really, really good against Crystal Palace. Just a moment of individual brilliance in that 30 seconds from Wilfried Zaha to find the top corner. Saved Crystal Palace and got them a point. But Brighton dominated throughout that game. And as I said in my previous prediction, I sort of alluded to the fact that I was thinking Maupay was going to score by saying Maupay was looking really, really good. He did score. I believe he scored in 3 back-to-back games. However, I do think Sheffield United are in better form than Crystal Palace, and the table and results do reflect that. So I think this is going to be another stalemate. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw between the two teams because Sheffield United don't tend to concede more than 2, and I don't see them scoring twice against Brighton the way they're playing right now. So I think 1-1's a fairly solid shout here. The next game, Newcastle versus Crystal Palace. I'm going to predict a scoreline that I have never, ever correctly predicted, mostly because it doesn't happen often, and also because even less often than that, I predict it. So I'm going to predict a 0-0 draw. This is the score prediction that I would love to get right the most, because to predict that no team's going to score across 90 minutes when both teams' objective is to score would be quite a shout. And Newcastle, their front three just aren't firing. They couldn't break through Burnley, and Crystal Palace, if it wasn't for Wilfried Zaha, they wouldn't have broken through Brighton. They're going to be away from home. I'm going to go for a 0-0 draw between the two teams. I'd love to get that right. It'll probably end like 4-3 now that I've said that, but 0-0 draw nonetheless. The next game is Norwich up against Wolves. I think Wolves were unlucky to lose against Tottenham, although I did predict it and got the correct score. I don't think that told the full story. I think Wolves deserved at least a point from that game, and Wolves are looking really, really good. They had a bit of a shaky start in terms of not being able to get many wins, but they still haven't really lost that many games this year, and I don't think Norwich is the team to beat Wolves, and I think Wolves are in good form. If you didn't see, they got a ridiculously good win in the Europa League against Besiktas, 4 goals in 10 minutes. Largely thanks to Diogo Jota. I'm going to go for a 2-1 away win to Wolves. I was debating a 3-1 away win, but I thought about it, and although Wolves did score 4 against Besiktas in the Premier League, they tend to, when they win, they tend to win by scoring 2 and conceding less than that. They very rarely score more than 2 in the Premier League, so I'm going to go for a 2-1 win to Wolves. Now, the next game, one of the 2 games of the week, realistically, Manchester City up against Leicester. Now, I don't know. I assume Aguero will still be out injured. I think Leicester, they were surprised and shocked to drop points to Norwich at home, and I think this is probably the best time for Manchester City to play Leicester, having just destroyed Arsenal in a completely difference of class there, and Leicester dropping points against the Norwich side they really should have got 3 points from at home, and this will be Man City's chance to close the gap between them and Leicester so they can then try and focus on Liverpool, even though Liverpool are far, far away at this point. Speaking of Liverpool, I've missed Liverpool's game. Oh, I haven't missed Liverpool's game. They're supposed to play West Ham, aren't they? But that's been postponed because of the FIFA Club Cup thing that Liverpool are doing in Qatar. So I haven't missed Liverpool out, don't worry. Liverpool's game against West Ham has been postponed. I think this is going to be high scoring. I think Leicester will know that the way to beat Man City is to go on the front foot and attack them rather than sit back. Because if you sit back and try and absorb pressure from Manchester City, they're going to score goals. I think it's going to be end to end, and that will play into Leicester's hands. So I think Leicester are going to grab a couple of goals. However, I think Manchester City, this game could be the turning point for their season. They have to win, and I think they are going to do that. I still still think Leicester are nailed on for a top 4 finish, but I think Manchester City are just going to get the result here. I'm going to go for a 3-2 win to the citizens at the Etihad Stadium. The next game is Watford up against Manchester United. Watford, what a terrible performance against Liverpool. For all the good work they did to get themselves into scoring positions and to open Liverpool up a little bit, which they did do, they couldn't capitalise even in the slightest. And Manchester United, Mason Greenwood scoring the goal to bag them a point against Everton was much, much needed. As soon as Mason Greenwood got the ball on the edge of the box, I said to my dad, he and I were watching, I said, this is going to be a goal. And it almost was identical to the 2 goals that Mason Greenwood scored in the Europa League. He's got a brilliant left foot on him. He placed it perfectly through the legs of the defender into the bottom corner. And he does look really good. And he might get a start in this game. Maybe finally he's going to be able to get a start. There's a lot of fixtures happening. And I think against a team like Watford, I would start Mason Greenwood in this game. I think Manchester United are going to get a win here. Watford are going to have to take a chance in front of goal eventually, and I think they're going to in this game. So I'm going to go for a 3-1 away win to Manchester United in this fixture. The final game of the week is Tottenham up against Chelsea. This is a very, very interesting one, and I think week 17 will play a part in the way this goes. Chelsea coming off of a loss to Bournemouth, and Tottenham a fantastic win up against Wolves. Tottenham will be at home. Jose Mourinho facing his former club. I'm going to go for a Tottenham win because Chelsea have been very, very exciting to watch this season, but they've started to dip a little bit in form. And my dad was saying it, and it is kind of true. It's ever since they found out they could buy players in the January transfer window, it's as if they haven't been as much of a solid unit. They haven't performed as well. It's almost as if the players are a bit more unsettled. They're not sure if their place is as secure as it was, and they're not playing as well. I do think Chelsea will score, and I think Tottenham are definitely capable of leaking a goal or two. I'm going to go for quite a subdued, I guess, 2-1 Tottenham win. This could be a 2-2 draw. It could be a 3-2. It could be a Chelsea win if they play the football they've played a few times this season. But I do think Tottenham at home under Jose Mourinho should set up in a way that allows them to get the win. I'm going to go for a 2-1 win to Tottenham. So that is going to do it for this video. If you did enjoy it, be sure to leave a like on it. As I said, subscribe today so you don't miss a single video. We are, of course, like I said, getting close to 7,000 subscribers. And I will see you in the next video very soon.